Black Hearts in Battersea by Joan Aiken, Chapter 7. One morning, several weeks later, Dido waylaid Simon. She had recovered from her fever, but still looked pale, and was shaken from time to time by a dry cough. "You never plays with me nowadays," she complained. There was a forlorn droop to her mouth, and Simon took pity on her. "I'll tell you what, Brat, I shall be free on Sunday afternoon, for Mr. Cobb's yard is closed then, and I'll have finished the other job I'm working on." He meant the cleaning of the Riviera, which was nearing completion. "So I'll take you on an outing. Where shall it be? A trip down the river on a pleasure boat? Or shall we go into the country, take our dinners, and hunt for highwaymen in the Blackheath woods?" Dido was enchanted at this offer. Her eyes sparkled, and she began to jump up and down on the dirty front steps, hanging on to Simon's arm in a very exhausting manner, until a fit of coughing obliged her to desist. "Clapham Fair! Can we go to Clapham Fair? Pa says he wouldn't take me, but he always has 40 winks on Sunday afternoons, and Ma goes to Lady Triangulus's social, and Pennylope's gone off. They say there's a talking pig that'll answer any question you ask. And there's whirligigs and flying boats and giddy-go-rounds and Lambeth cakes and treacle sticks." All right, don't deafen me, Brat. "You shall go to the fair. Only for my sake, will you put on a clean pinafore when we go and wash your face?" "Oh, stuff!" Dido put out her tongue at him between the railings. Simon waved a hand to her and went whistling away down the street. The Duke of Battersea was not at home that evening, having been inveigled for once into attending a performance at the opera with his lady. Sophie, who sometimes slipped into the library for a chat when Simon was there, had left a note tucked among his cleaning tools, informing him that she also would be out, escorting her mistress, for fear of being bored. The Duchess would go nowhere without a supply of amusements, ready matter, and embroidery, things which it was Sophie's duty to carry. The party would not be home until a late hour. Simon was disappointed not to see Sophie, but the absence of his Grace's somewhat fidgety companionship made it easier to get on with the job, and he applied himself with a will, whistling gently between his teeth as he uncovered more and more of the large picture, until there was only a patch as big as a top hat left to clean. "Halloo!" remarked a supercilious voice behind his shoulder, after an hour or two had gone by. "How's the paint scrubbing going?" He turned to see young Lord Bakerloo surveying the cleaning operation somewhat scornfully. He seemed disposed to linger, however, rocking to and fro on his heels, picking up first one, then another of the cleaning tools, until Simon longed to tell him to leave them be. "How's old Furnose?" he presently inquired. Simon replied that Dr. Furnot seemed in the best of health, and civilly asked after Lord Bakerloo's arm. "Can you keep a secret?" said Justin. "Of course." "Well, so can I. Mum's the word." Justin doubled up with laughter at his own wit, and added, "You won't see me at that old academy again for a long, long time, I can tell you." Simon made no reply to this, but quietly got on with his work, while Justin wandered about behind him, occasionally singing snatches of a ballad which seemed to consist principally of the refrain, "Hip, hap, habble-dabble-o, shall we go to Haberdasher's Row?" until Simon felt there was no place in London that he less wished to visit. "Devilish dull here this evening, ain't it?" Justin presently broke off to say. He yawned until his face seemed ready to split. "I almost wish I'd gone to the opera with the old gudgeons. Not that Aunt Hetty asked me," he added sourly. "I believe Buckle peached on me. Said I hadn't finished my lessons. By the by, Uncle Bill charged me with a message to you. I was to ask if you was free to play chess with him on Sunday. Getting jumped up in the world, aren't we? My, oh me, playing chess with the gentry and nobility." "Do you mean His Grace the Duke invited me?" Simon asked, ignoring the sneer in the last sentence. "Of course I do. Uncle Bill Battersea, mad as a hatter. See, growing much fatter. See, oh, devilish good I'm a wit, I am." Simon disagreed, but kept his opinion to himself. He said, "Will you please tell His Grace that I thank him kindly for the invitation, but I shan't be able to accept." "Blest if I see why I should carry your messages," Justin said. Why can't you write him a note? Or can't you write?" he added rudely. Simon checked an irritable retort, calmly wrote a note on a page of his sketchbook, folded it into a cocked hat, and laid it on his Grace's fireside table. "Fancy that he can write," said Justin with heavy sarcasm. Plainly he was spoiling for a quarrel and longed to provoke Simon into setting about him. Simon, instead, began to feel rather sorry for him. He seemed lonely and bored, disappointed at not being taken to the opera, and very much at a loose end. "Anyway, why can't you come on Sunday?" Justin inquired, with the persistence of a buzzfly. "It ain't very polite to turn down Uncle Bill's invitation. I'm taking Dido Twite to Clapham Fair." "That little bag of bones? Why the dickens do you want to do that for?" Justin exclaimed, truly astonished. "She's as dirty as a gutter perch, and got no more manners or gratitude than a hedge fish." Simon remarked mildly that he had promised Dido a treat long since, and she had chosen to go to the fair. "Well, I wish I was coming instead of Dido," Justin remarked frankly. "It's a prime good fair, I can tell you. I sneaked out last year and went with Jem, the stable boy." "No old buckle and thongs living in the castle, keeping such a tight eye on me. I dare say I shan't be allowed." "You're welcome to come with me if you can get permission," Simon said. Justin's face lit up. "Could I? Oh, that'd be spanking. But," he said gloomily, "it's no use asking. For if Buckle heard I was going with you and Dido Twite, he'd never allow it. It'd be the monkey's allowance, sure as you're alive. He don't permit me to associate with low-born persons. He's a sight stricter than Uncle Bill. I'd slip off anyways, but they keep me so devilish short of blunt that I've hardly 2 groats to rub together. I suppose you couldn't lend me a cartwheel, could you?" "Yes, all right," Simon said calmly. "But I shall tell your uncle that I am taking you, you know. I dare say he'll have no objection, but I don't want to do anything behind his Grace's back." He handed over the coin. "If you tell him we're making the whole arrangement for Habakkuk," Justin said discontentedly. If you tell him we're making the whole arrangement for Habakkuk," Justin said discontentedly. "Sure, old Buckle will find some way to stop my going. I'll bet you a boardy. How I hate him, that cheese-faced old screw." "Lord Bakerloo," said an acidly angry voice just behind his back. He whirled round. Mr. Buckle stood there. "What are you doing in the library, pray?" Buckle said. "You know his Grace left strict instructions you were not to consort with the cleaning boy and hinder him from his work. Back to your studies, my lord, if you please." "Oh, very well," replied Justin sulkily, and began to slouch away, making a grimace at Simon. Mr. Buckle, who had hitherto ignored Simon, now cast one sharply penetrating and strangely malignant glance at him. His eye moved on from Simon to the picture, completely clean at last. Something about it suddenly seemed to arrest his very particular attention. He stared at it fixedly for a moment or two, then glanced at Simon again, with eyes dilated, then back at the picture. "Good God!" he exclaimed under his breath, and gave Simon a last hard scrutiny, and hurried after his charge. Simon, very much surprised, inspected the picture attentively himself to try to discover what had fixed the tutor's interest. The last section to be cleaned was the portrait of a dark-haired boy on a pony. There seemed nothing odd about him that Simon could see. In the end, he gave up the puzzle and began putting his tools together, preparatory to departure. At this moment he heard a confusion of voices outside the door, and a group of persons burst into the room, all talking at once. The Duke was in front, with her Grace the Duchess, followed by Midwink, the sour-faced valet, and Sophie, besides a couple of